The Big South and OVC extending their merger in 2030 means that Tennessee State's playoff hopes remain secure until the end of the decade. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make it Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey's over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. We'll wrap up today's episode by looking at the CIAA football championship game and how it's changed from Virginia to North Carolina starting in 2025. Prior to that, the MEAC should be absolutely disappointed with themselves because Kai Cole is ineligible for the Olympic trials. Not what we thought he was going to be, but he is ineligible for the Olympic trials, and it is all their fault. But we kick off today's episode with a look at the Big South OVC merger, because for those who have been paying attention to Tennessee State, there were some things going on as far as the stability of the Big South, as far as the stability of the OVC, and Tennessee State was in the latter. The decision to merge the two conferences came out of necessity, and it's turned out pretty well, right? If you just base it off of last season, they obviously loved the idea and they loved how it actually went into practice enough to say, we're going to re-up this deal until 2030. So that's a big deal. This is good. No, this is great for Tennessee State, because what this does is it ensures them stability in the FCS playoffs until the end of the decade. So if you're wondering why the Big South and the OVC had to merge, basically, I can't remember the OVC's exact numbers, but the Big South was, they were headed down. The way folks talk about the MEAC is what it felt like the Big South was headed to. But the Big South don't have no Celebration Bowl to lean back on. See, when it's all done with them and they're no longer getting an automatic bid, now things get significantly more difficult for everybody within that conference. Because if you don't have an automatic bid, then you have to be an at-large. And I would imagine, I don't study the at-large versus the automatic and, what conferences get, how many at-larges do each conference get, right? But what I would assume is, if your conference is dwindling in numbers, you're probably not viewed as the strongest conference. And when you're not viewed as the strongest conference, it's a lot of times more difficult for you to get an at-large bid because you're not. Look, we live it, y'all. We live it. We know how it is being in the SWAC. We know how it is being in the MEAC. We know how that is when it comes to Division I basketball. And we see the seeding that you get. So you know how being in a perceived weak conference impacts your ability when it comes to postseason play. So I would imagine that the Big South was headed down that road if they were to eventually lose their automatic qualifier. But North Carolina A&T left, Hampton left. OVC on the other side, I'm not sure on the exact numbers that they had coming into this merger or what the kind of the ebbs and flows were for this conference. But at the same time, now you got 11, or you have 11 now. You came in with 10, but they added a team that'll be joining the merger this year. This partnership was signed off 2022, started going into effect last year. It was the original contract was meant to go until 2026. This extension adds 4 more years on it. It enhances it, gives some extra tweaks and whatnot that I don't think are necessary to go through today, to be honest. But overall, you see how happy that they were in the first year that they're going to say, yeah, this needs to happen. And I want to go through Big South President William Downs' comments. He's also Gardner-Webb's president, the back-to-back champions. But Um, I want to go through these comments because though it's not somebody from Tennessee State, it's important to remember that this directly impacts the Tigers. It directly impacts them. Though there's nothing to specifically reference them here, the merger in general is a positive, and I think it's important to know how everything works if you're a Tennessee State fan. But this is what Big South President William Downs had to say about the decision to re-up this contract. By strengthening the Big South's partnership with the OVC, Gardner Webb, because he's talking about his school, Gardner Webb has definitely secured an annual pathway to the FCS playoffs. We now have clarity. We now have certainty. We now have stability amidst the nationwide tumult of conference realignment, and all that remains is the execution. Secured is the key word. Security. Because like I told you, this is about the FCS playoffs. See, we have debates on FCS playoffs this, FCS playoffs that. Hopefully I put those to bed last week. If you didn't catch the Friday episode, it's all about things that I wish we stopped talking about. And the FCS playoffs versus the Celebration Bowl was definitely one of those things. But anyway, we have those debates. They ain't gonna end just because I said in. I ain't Simon. But like, when you're outside of the MEAC, when you're outside of the SWAC, this is not a debate. We're looking for the playoffs. So Tennessee State is looking to get an automatic bid into the FCS playoffs. So that's why this merger makes a lot of sense for everybody involved. That's how Gardner Webb made it to the playoffs last year, because they had an automatic bid. Security, security, security. But let's look at some of the other things that were said. You had secured. I'm just going to point out what I believe were the key words in this. Secured, clarity, certainty, stability, right? Like, these are words that say we don't know what's going on, but now we do, or we didn't know. That's the better way to look at it. When you talk about secured, all right, cool, I have confidence, I can relax. When you talk about certainty, that's knowing what's going to happen. That's confidence in the belief of what you have moving forward in your pathway. When you're looking at clarity, it's simple understanding. And when you look at the nationwide tumult of conference realignment, that's the stability that you want to avoid, right? You want to avoid these ebbs and flows, because everything is changing. But what we know is that now that we have the Big South and the OVC, I have the clarity, I have the certainty, I have the stability, and most importantly, I feel secure in everything that's going to be going on for the next, 6 years, right? You got until 2030 that this thing is going to go on. And if everything goes right, it'll probably be a pretty permanent partnership. But yeah, just so you know, there will be 8 games. There'll be 8 conference games that you have to play every year. There's going to be 10 to 11 teams. Right now it's 10. Next year it'll be, or actually, I guess we're going into next year. So starting in 2024, it'll be 11 teams in this merger. So regardless if it's 10, regardless of if it's 11, you still have Tennessee State, who is guaranteed a spot in the FCS playoffs if they are able to win a championship in this merger. And over everything else, that's what this gives you. When they say it's strengths in numbers, that's a cliche, but here it's a literal sense. So as you push forward, Kai Cole thought it was strength in numbers, but ain't nobody really have his back. And I don't like that. And I need to look directly at the MEAC, because you was dead wrong in that. And I want to break this down as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Wow. No more NBA playoffs. I think the Stanley Cup is, if it's not already over, it's almost over. And now you just got the MLB. What's the closest professional team to you, right? Because for me, it's the Rangers. Maybe I want to go to some Rangers, to a Rangers game. I just went a couple of days ago. Fantastic. Not a bad seat in the house. Gametime, where you got to get them tickets. Got to get them tickets on Gametime, whether it's zone deals. You have up to an hour after the game sometimes that you have tickets on sale. But maybe, you know what, baseball isn't your thing, and you said, my sports don't start until the fall. That's cool. Go to a theater play. Go to a concert. Go to any event, right? Bryson Tiller is coming soon to the area. You can go get you some Bryson Tiller tickets if you want to. He's on tour and he'll come to your city eventually. So if you're going to get some tickets, make sure you go on Gametime, no matter if it's athletics or if it's entertainment. Go to Gametime, download the app, create an account, and get $20 off your first purchase when you use the code LOCKEDONCollege. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked on Sports Today. It's the first of its kind. First of its kind. I mean, no one else has ever done it. Ever. 24/7 live sports network on YouTube. Go ahead and go to Locked on Sports Today and subscribe. Now, Kai Cole won't be running in this year's Olympic trials, and it's probably going to be his last opportunity. This is the problem, right? I want to make sure that I pull up his words because we're going to read them in a second. I want to read the kind of the announcement that he made on Twitter because I think it's important. But Kai Cole missing the Olympic trials is directly the blame of the MEAC. Yeah, I think Norfolk State shares a little bit of the blame, but Kai Cole missing the Olympic trials is an indictment of the MEAC. It is them who is at fault. It's not Kai Cole. Norfolk State does share a little bit of the blame because they also didn't help. But I don't want to jump straight to what did you do when things didn't work. It's about what did you do on the reason that they went wrong. See, once everything hit the fan, the MEAC should have taken care of Kai Cole. He should have been not fighting alone. It shouldn't have just been him and his coaches. The MEAC should have came to back him. Norfolk State should have came to back him, but they didn't. But I'm looking at the MEAC because before you failed to back your athlete, you failed to make sure that your athlete was secure. We just got done talking about security with Tennessee State in the Big South OVC merger. The MEAC didn't secure Kai Cole because when Kai Cole ran the 100-meter race of his life, he secured himself a spot in the Olympic trials based on time. However, because the MEAC failed to get this USATF sanctioned, it don't even matter. And he won't be in the Olympic trials because of that. That's no fault of Cole. That's the MEAC. That's the MEAC. Let's go ahead and write or read what Cole had to say. All right. He said, "Hey, everyone. I wanted to let you all know that I won't be attending the Olympic trials this weekend. As many of you know, I was supposed to be competing, but due to the MEAC's failure to sanction our conference track meet, my qualifying time of a 10:05 was rejected by the USATF. Despite my best efforts to appeal the decision, it was still denied. And unfortunately, my university didn't fully support me in effort to get the ruling overturned. Opportunities like this don't come around very often. So for this to be stripped away from me is truly heartbreaking. Out of the 5 years of putting my all in the Norfolk State track and field, it is unfortunate that this is the way my journey has to end. Being a multi-time champion in the MEAC conference and a 3-time school record holder is upsetting that this was out of my control. Thank you, Coach Dwayne, Coach Ashanti, and most of all, Coach Price, for your all-out effort to fight for me, and your support means the world to me. Thank you for all your understanding and continued support. Best, Kai Cole." Shout out to Coach Dwayne, Coach Ashanti, and Coach Price. Kai Cole missing out on the Olympic trial. Let me calm down. Let me chill. Kai Cole missing out on the Olympic trials is an indictment on the MEAC because it means that no matter how you slice it, you didn't handle your business. Why is the conference track meet, the conference championships, why is that not USATF sanctioned? This man ran a 10:05. He ran the race of his year. And it was great. He won the MEAC with it, but it doesn't matter because it wasn't sanctioned. They didn't go through the proper channels. I hope it wasn't negligence. I hope you didn't just forget. I hope you just didn't decide not to do it. But my question is, if you didn't decide not to do it, did you not meet the standards? Right? Because if you didn't meet the standards, now Kai Cole, because of your failures, has to sit back and watch the Olympic trials like Isaiah Thomas. He has to sit there and say, I met the criteria to be selected, but I wasn't selected. You can't blame USA Track and Field. You can't blame Kai Cole. I can blame the MEAC, and I will, because there's no reason that an event of that magnitude should not have had a USATF sanction. Forget all of the Olympics. You get certain insurances. You get certain benefits. This is just advantageous for you to do, period. I don't care if Kai Cole ran a 10:05. Why was this event not sanctioned? Kai Cole's performance highlights the problem. But Kai Cole's performance is not the reason that this is a problem. This should have been sanctioned no matter what. It's the MEAC conference track meet. Norfolk State, and I ain't mad at you when he said, look, I'm a 3-time school record champion. I'm a MEAC champion, or excuse me, I'm a 3-time school record holder. I'm a MEAC champion, multi-time. Everything I did for this conference, everything I did for this school, and they ain't want to back me. All right. I'd be pretty upset. You failed this young man. Honestly, I don't know what the MEAC could have done, but I feel like they didn't do enough, right? Like, the USA track and field is not obligated to give a favor out. I can't blame them, right? I can't blame them. I wish they would have said, yeah, it was win legal. It was one of the best times in the country this year, but they ain't obligated for that. They strict, but the MEAC should have went through the proper channels, and that's all it is. The MEAC should have went through the proper channels. I don't know what happened. Did they miss a deadline? That's lazy. Did they decide not to do it? That's negligent. Did they not meet the proper standards to be sanctioned? That's a problem in and of itself. Either way, I don't care how you cut it. The MEAC is at fault, and they need to do better. You ever seen that guy who be in the gym? I can't remember his name. I think it's Joey Swole, right? And he always ends his videos with, "Mind your business. You need to do better." Well, that's my message to the MEAC. Mind your business. You need to do better. I need a statement on what happened, because last time I seen, the MEAC decided to decline to give a comment. I need to know why this young man is not going to the Olympic trials, or excuse me, what you did to keep this man from going to the Olympic trials. Now, as I push forward, we're going to stay in this region, but we're going to get on a much better note, because we're not talking about failures. We're talking about moving venues and hopefully more revenue, hopefully more blessings, hopefully just improved conditions as the CIAA championship is moving from Virginia to North Carolina. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. The CIAA has changed their football championship game from Virginia to North Carolina, and I hope that Virginia enjoys 2024, because this is the last year that they'll be hosting the event. Durham, North Carolina recently won a bid to host this game moving forward. Since 2017, the CIAA football season has concluded in Salem, Virginia. And from everything I heard, it's been great, right? Like, I hear that the way that they host is good. Everything's been going well. So the reason I bring that up is not to say, hey, I was surprised, right? It is that. But it's really just to say Durham must have been offering something good. I don't think that, because sometimes you're in a relationship where ain't even got to be a relationship, but you're in a partnership. That's the better way to put it. You're in a partnership where it's like, hey, man, I can't wait to get out of this contract. I can't wait to get out. I do not like it here. I am unfulfilled. I am unsatisfied. I don't like it here. So wherever I'm going to go, I don't know where the next place I'm going to go, but I know it's not here. From the way that I hear people speak about Salem, Virginia, and the stuff that I read, it didn't seem as if Salem was a problem. So because Salem wasn't a problem, I highly doubt that the CIAA was itching to get their game away from Salem. Just something better came on the table. You don't go in blind, right? Just because something's good in business, this ain't relationships. Like, hey, don't be out here cheating on your girl, cheating on your man. Don't do that. Don't say the mouth of the South told you to do that. I ain't say that. I ain't saying just because you could find something better. I'm talking about in business, right? In business, just because you're happy in a place does not mean that you do not listen to other offers. And when you listen to these other offers, if they're good deals, then of course, that is the route that you are going to go. That is what you're going to pick. And from my opinion of what I've read, the CIAA just saw a better offer, right? Let's read what Commissioner Jackie McWilliams had to say about the decision to move to Durham and in what will be an 8-year run in the state of Virginia. Quote, The CIAA looks forward to returning to Durham County Memorial Stadium. Our recent media rights partnership with HBCU Go gives us the opportunity to showcase our top teams in a centralized location. Again, where the football championship has thrived in the past. The CIAA will have an opportunity to engage the community beyond the game in a way that supports the mission of the conference. Now, what jumps out to me, honestly, and this is kind of on the fly because I don't remember this jumping out to me when I wrote this all down. But what jumps out in my attention, what catches my attention immediately, is the fact that you mentioned HBCU Go. Because if we're talking about what's changed, probably HBCU Go in the last since the last bid happened. And I think that the CIAA contract with HBCU Go is very recent, like more recent. They didn't come in when the company first started bubbling up. If I'm not mistaken, their deal with HBCU Go is in the last year. I think maybe last fall. I think it might have happened right before last football season. I could be wrong, but I vividly remember there being a conversation on what games would a CIAA give to HBCU Go, and the like just the schedule of who's going to get what. So this is very new. That would explain something that has changed. That being said, let's go to Durham because I was like, close to the conference offices. Is about a 30 to 45-minute difference. It's not super close to Charlotte, right? Like Durham's not right around the corner from Charlotte. It's in the same state, but Durham is almost in the middle. 30 to 45 minutes of a difference, really, but it's almost equal distance from Charlotte. Or excuse me, Charlotte is equal distance from Durham and Salem. So that's kind of just, I don't know how big of a deal that was. But anyway, she speaks about the familiarity, right? She speaks about the familiarity when it comes to going back to Durham because she says, again, where the football championship has thrived in the past. Durham hosted the football championship game in 2014 and 15. Then they also hosted it from 2008 all the way to 2012. So those are two different stretches, and they're back now. It's a short contract. Right now, it's just 25 to 27. That's it. So you'll have next year, as far as like 365 days plus, however long that is. You have 2025, 2026, and 2027. I would imagine that you have 2 years to really prove yourself. The reason I say that is because this decision was made a year before the contract was up, and that seems like an appropriate timeline. It's very quick. It's very quick, but Durham has done this before. This shouldn't be overly new. They host the track and field championships. They're used to events of the CIAA that are bigger events. They're used to this. I would assume it's not going to be too much of a big deal for them. They shouldn't need time to get acclimated. Matter of fact, they've done this. They were in 2015 most recently. So the way that I think about this is we'll see how long that it lasts. They're guaranteed 3 years for sure. But outside of that, I don't know. Like Salem seemed to be good. You can always fall back on Salem. Salem was another person who was in this bid. So it's not as if the city didn't want you. We'll see what happens. After this, this may be a new spot, just like Baltimore was so good for them. This may be something very similar where it's like, all right, we done caught fire because Coop, y'all remember Candace Cooper, friend of the show. She's come on here and talked about a CIAA multiple times, the tournament games, multiple times. Hey, man, you got to get out here. You got to get out here. You got to get out here. And I keep saying I'm going to get out there, but I never have. I will try to. If you listen to this, Coop, I will try to get out there. But that being said, they may catch fire in Durham. You never know. They have 7 schools in North Carolina that are currently in the CIAA. If we're talking about centralizing, North Carolina is just the most logical place to have an event of this magnitude. It will make sense in a lot of different ways, but I think that when you're looking at the 7 schools that are here, that's probably the most important part. And I'll wrap it up with this little criteria that I got from the Fayetteville State website about this. It was right up. But basically, the things that played in the part: facility use, staffing, team support, opportunities for community engagement, and involvement in local business community. So that's probably a cut of the money, maybe a different slice, maybe a different mass revenue. There's all these different things that could come into play, which you have to wait and see how it ends up turning out, because business is going to be the thing that talks. The game is the game. The game is the game. But it's going to be the business that decides whether or not they keep it in Durham after this 3-year contract. I'm getting my wisdom teeth taken out. Probably have already done it by the time that you heard me. That being said, I will not be back on Monday. No, I'm joking. I have a pre-recorded segment, a pre-recorded show with Gerald Huggins that I think was absolutely phenomenal. I recorded it earlier today, and I'm very excited to bring this to you. On Monday, we'll be looking at running backs, we'll be looking at linebackers, and then we started talking about quarterbacks, and we just went all left field with it. But that's how we do, and that's why that's my guy, because I be going left field, and he gonna go with me. So I appreciate you for going left field with us on Monday. I'm preparing you now. But in the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.